Good morning everyone, I am Rochelle Sabanillo, the first presenter, and today we're going to tackle about the aspects of gene therapy. So first, as is commonly understood, gene pertains to a unit of heredity which is transferred from a parent, atong mama ug papa, to the offspring, atong mga kita nga mga anak, and is commonly used and serve as a basis upon determining some characteristic of the offspring. And on the other note, gene refers to a segment of DNA that carries instructions for making proteins and determining how your body works. And therapy, on the other hand, is all about treatment or ways nga magpaayo ta. So this includes ways to heal, improve, or fix what's wrong in our body. So if i-combine na to ang duha, gene therapy becomes a revolutionary medical approach that aims to treat or even cure diseases by directly targeting these genetic instructions. So, what do we mean? Unsa itong buot pasabot sa revolutionary? It means the metamorphose ang traditional ways of treating an illness to a new one. So for example, instead of just treating the traditional symptoms of a disease, like mag-inom na ta og tambal, mga tablets ing ana para maayo ta, so gene therapy involves targeting the root cause or the genes themselves. It is by fixing, replacing, or even modifying faulty genes. So, pinaagi ani, it can potentially cure diseases that were previously untreatable or sa dina nga di pa siya maayo, pinaagi sa gene therapy, mahimong possible nga maayo na siya. So, that's gene therapy. Medical science has detected many human diseases related to defective genes. So, over the years, scientists have found that some illnesses are caused by changes or errors in our genes. So, ang genes manggod, they're like instructions inside our body that tell it how to grow, develop, and ultimately function. So, di ba kung isa ka instruction kay faulty siya, meaning daghang mo-arise nga problema. So, maupod na, kung ang atong gene faulty siya, meaning daghang mga health-related problems nga mo-arise, such as cystic fibrosis, cell anemia, and even different types of hearing loss. And scientists have revealed nga abinilag ang mga conventional root causes of these illnesses and diseases kay kadtura, but there's more beyond that. Kay they have identified nga ang atong mga genes or genetic problems can also serve as one of the factors nga nung mo-arise ng mga illnesses or diseases. And next, gene therapy is a medical approach where doctors try to fix or replace the defective genes causing a disease. So instead of just treating the symptoms by katong mga conventional way ganiha, gene therapy targets the problem at its source, katong at its roots good. So the gene itself ng ilang pulihan or alisdan. So this could involve adding a healthy copy of the gene, repairing the faulty one, or even turning off a harmful gene. So through gene therapy, it can restore the normal function sa ato ang lawas, and in some cases, it completely cure the genetic condition. Kay naman ko giingon ganiha nga abi sa mga patients siguro nga incurable or untreatable disease na siya, pero pinaagi sa gene therapy, it is a great chance nga maayo ang isa ka patient. And a significant study in 2015 showed that gene therapy could actually work in real cases. It is because scientists were able to give back some hearing to mice that were born deaf due to genetic issues. So ang balagtok or ang ilaga kay gipanganak siya nga na siya hearing loss. Dayon gi-apply nila ang gene therapy and it was so effective kay ang mice or ang tiga nakadungog siya bisan mga whispers or mga hunghong. So this reveals nga ang gene therapy has the potential to treat genetic disorders in humans in the future. Kay para mantug ang mga mice nahimo siyang experiment bitaw or lagi ang application sa gene therapy nagsugod didto, and they found out nga naayo man ang mga mice, so it could possibly heal the patients in the future.
Good day everyone. I'm going to talk about human gene therapy. So basically, gene therapy is a medical technique na ginagamit to treat diseases by putting new genetic material into a patient's cells. The idea actually started noong early 1970s, nung na-discover ng scientists on how to cut and combine pieces of DNA, yung tinatawag na recombinant DNA. From there, people realized na if kaya nating intindihin and i-manipulate ang DNA sa lab, maybe kaya rin natin i-fix yung faulty genes sa body ng tao. The main concept is actually simple. If yung disease is caused by a missing or defective gene, then adding a working copy can help the patient get better. Pero kahit simple siya pakinggan, the process is super complex in real life. Scientists have to make sure na yung new genes goes to the right cells and work safely. Like hindi siya mag-create ng other problem sa isang tao. Right now, gene therapy is seen as one of the most promising field in modern medicine kasi it gives hope for those diseases na dati parang imposible na pagalingin. But of course, may risk and challenges pa rin, so kailangan talaga ng careful research.
Now, let's talk about the basic process of gene therapy. There are actually three main ways that a gene therapy works, according to Fleischer of 2017. First, scientists can replace a mutated gene, meaning that a damaged or faulty gene will replace a healthy copy. So, it will help to fix the root cause of the disease. Second, they can inactivate the mutated gene that is not working properly. So, instead of replacing it, they can simply turn off the gene that causing the problem. And the third, scientists can introduce a brand new gene into the body. So, this gene can help to fight the diseases and to make the body function better. Therefore, gene therapy focuses on correcting, turning off, and adding gene to help treat different medical conditions. Now, let's talk about how genes are delivered into the body, or what we call the basic process. When doing gene therapy, scientists cannot insert genes into our human cells. Our cells do not naturally accept random DNA. So instead, they use something called vector. A vector is like a carrier or a delivery vehicle that brings the healthy gene into our cell. The most common vectors are genetically modified viruses. And you might wonder, and you might be asking, why viruses? That's what they able to do. But for gene therapy, scientists remove the harmful parts of the viruses, keeping only the parts that help them deliver the healthy gene safely.
Now, there are two main ways scientists can try to fix a problem in a person's DNA, and the biggest difference between them is who the fix affects, just the patient or their children and all future family members. So, the two types of gene therapy are somatic, wherein it's giving of DNA to any bodily cell that does not make sperm or eggs. Children of the patient will not experience the effects of gene therapy, wherein in germline, it is giving cells that make eggs or sperm a piece of DNA. The patient's offspring and future generations will be affected by the effects of gene therapy. So they both treat or prevent disease. Now for their difference, specifically, the somatic gene therapy is called Just For Me Fix. So this is the kind of gene therapy that doctors currently use to treat or prevent disease. It's considered a personal medical fix. So the target for it is the somatic cells, wherein it means that giving a piece of DNA to any regular body cell, like cells in the blood, muscles, or liver. that does not make sperm or eggs. So the result for it is the treatment is limited to the patient's own body. The change is not passed down, so the children of the patient will not experience the effects of gene therapy. So this is the safe and approved way to use gene therapy today. Now, germline gene therapy, on the other hand, is the forever fix, wherein that kind of therapy is not allowed for use in people because it is seen too risky and raises huge ethical questions. So the target for it is or are germ cells, which means giving cells that make eggs or sperm a piece of DNA. And the result is the change is built right into the human blueprint and is permanent. So that means the patient's offspring and future generations will be affected by the effect of gene therapy. Because any mistake made could hurt people for hundreds of years. Countries across the world have banned this practice for now. So the only core idea is simple. Somatic therapy only changes the individual being treated, but germline is the therapy that changes the entire family line forever.
Stem cells are often called the mother cells of our body because they have a unique ability that ordinary cells do not have. While regular cells can only perform one specific function, like a skin cell, they only stay a skin cell. Whereas stem cells, they can transform into many types of cells. They can turn into blood cells, bone cells, heart cells, brain cells, or even muscle cells, depending on what the body needs. Another important feature of stem cells is their ability to self-renew. So this means they can continually divide and create new healthy copies of themselves. Because they can both specialize and renew, stem cells play a major role in growth, healing, and repairing damaged tissues. These powerful characteristics are the reason stem cells are widely studied today. They hold great potential for medical treatments, especially in areas like regenerative medicine and gene therapy. There are two major sources of stem cells that will be discussed by the next presenter.
So now I will explain to you the two types of stem cells. So what are those two types? So first is the embryonic stem cells and somatic stem cells. So first, what is embryonic stem cells? It is come from a very early stage of a human embryo, usually 4 to 5 days old. At this age, the embryo is called blastocyst. These embryos are often left over from IVF clinics where eggs are fertilized in a lab instead of being discarded. Some are used for research. So what makes embryonic stem cells special is so they can turn into any type of cell in the body like the heart, skin, brain, or muscles. So because of these, they are very useful in research and medicine. So next, I will explain to you about the somatic stem cells, so also called adult stem cells, so are found in many parts of our body like the brain, bone marrow, blood, muscles, skin, and liver. These stem cells usually stay inactive for a long time until something happens like an injury. When activated, they help repair or replace damaged tissues. So most somatic stem cells can only produce the type of cell from the tissue they came from. For example, a bone marrow stem cell makes blood cells, but studies show that sometimes they can also change into other cell types. So in summary, embryonic stem cells are very flexible and can become almost any cell type, while somatic stem cells help repair the body and are usually limited to the tissue they came from.
So now we're on the germline therapy controversies. So there are controversies in germline therapy. So why are there controversies? So germline therapies involves changing genes in cells, and these changes can be passed through the next generation. So why are there changes that can be passed to the next generation when applying germline therapy? So, for example, imagine if you change something in a seed. And if you change that seed, every plant that grows from it will also have that change. Kumbaga, kato nga plant nga gi-editan ang seed, mao na to siya ay inig magkuha na pud kag seed adto, mao na pud to nga seed which is the same nga mga cells ang gamito, which is the same cells sa edited na cells. Kumbaga tuloy-tuloy na din to nga mao na din to ang bag-o nga seed nga edited. So same as germline therapy works, it changes the seed of human or egg or sperm cells. So the change is not just for one person but also for their future children. So, diba? So, kung ma-editan tong isa ka egg or sperm cells, the same as kung magkaanak na po katong edited na cell, is mao na po to siya next generation, the same until sa next generation, the same, which are these cells or humans are also edited. So many concerns focus on how this genetic change might affect unborn children and future generations. People are worried because we don't know what might happen to babies in the future if we change these seeds. Some changes might help, but others might cause problem. We don't expect. It's like fixing a toy without knowing how all parts work. You might fix one thing, but accidentally breaks another. So, because of this, because of this risk, the US government does not fund on human germline gene therapy. Yeah, because it's not very safe, and since scientists are not yet sure if it is 100% safe, the government decided not to pay for or support experiments that change the seed of humans because it's not very they are not still 100% sure if it is effective, because like what was mentioned earlier, that we don't know what might happen to babies in the future if we change this seed. Some changes might be positive, but we can't risk to the negative sides of that because it's a human life, right? So that's why the US government did not fund for this kind of research, because it has a very huge risk, especially it's a human life. This rule helps protect future babies from possible harm until scientists know more. So that's all for my part.
In conclusion, gene therapy is a method that may treat or cure genetic-related human illnesses. There are two forms of gene therapy. One is somatic gene therapy, which involves the manipulation of genes in cells that will be helpful to the patients but not inherited to the next generations. The other is germline gene therapy, which involves the genetic modification of germ cells or the origin cells that will pass the change to the next generation. There are many ethical issues on gene therapy. Some of these issues are about questions on whose authority or power to decide which human threats should be altered. Their other concerns are on the discriminatory effects of those who may not or cannot avail gene therapy. Stem cells are especially cells that can develop into different types of tissues. Embryonic stem cells come from early embryos and can become almost any cells type. Adult or somatic stem cells live in tissues like bone marrow and stay inactive until the body needs repair. Gene therapy is a medical technique that fix genetic problems by changing or replacing faulty genes. It uses vectors, often modified viruses, to deliver healthy genes into cells. There are two main types of gene therapy. Somatic gene therapy targets body cells. The changes affects only in the treated patients. Germline gene therapy targets reproductive cells. The change can be passed to the future generation. This second type is controversial and not government funded. Thank you.